Call the meeting back to order.
Right now you were again, weren't you? Sorry. Yeah, you should. If they used it, yes. Here you go, my sunglasses. Oh, I do. Right. I didn't take it. Where's your chair? Oh. Funny.
Usurper? No, I left my seat. Left it unattended. 100%.
With him, well done. Just waiting. Get your sunglasses.
I mean, it was nice, except I couldn't see.
Hey, Nikki. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. It's always the hardest one when you're the last one and people want to go home. We have full bellies, we're fine.
Yes, yes. We've had lots of good snacks tonight. So Dr. Michelle Mortenson, tonight we're going to start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll start here towards the end. And we have a series of 12 questions we'll be asking you. But to start, we'd like to hear about yourself.
Absolutely, Dr. Michelle Mortenson. This is my 15th year as an administrator. I come from Albert Lea, what I call home. I have 4 children, and they range from 30 to 15, so I'll be bringing people with me. I received my doctorate from St. Thomas. I'm going to retract that and say St. Cloud. St. Thomas was where I got my principal's licensure. So I've had the ability of being able to work in some big schools and in some small schools, so I'm really happy with my experience, and I think I could bring a lot to the district.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm a little windblown, so sorry, it's a little windy.
You look great.
Brandon, would you like to start?
Yes, I can. First question, how do you plan to support and enhance academic achievement across all grade levels?
For me, academic achievement is the most important of what I work with. I'm very fortunate to have been a part of some great successes with kids. I'll give you an example. When I was over in Ivanhoe, they were back when the Minnesota did the reward school, the celebration school. I don't know if you remember that time or not, but we were a needs improvement school. We were in the bottom 5%, and within 2 years, we made it all the way up to a reward school. And so we used the professional learning community process, and we were able to make some great gains in a couple of years. Our teachers really jumped on it because they knew the benefit. I provided some cross-district opportunities so that our teachers could work with other professionals in other districts in order to get more knowledge of what they needed to do for our kids. And when I was in Buffalo, like Hector Stewart, we did the same thing. And our kids were, we were blue ribbon school because we continued to work with our kids, give options to our kids, choices. I really feel very firmly in teaching and testing and bringing whatever those kids need, but that has to be at the forefront because it doesn't matter what they do outside, they need that strong foundational base to be strong in whatever they choose to do.
How would you address bullying and ensure a safe and inclusive school environment for everyone?
When it comes to bullying, you have to address it immediately because if you don't, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more people get involved. And then you also start looking at parents getting involved, the community gets involved, school gets a bad name. We have to stop it right away. We have to address the issues as they come to us. It's not going to go away if we don't take care of it. The biggest thing I always look at is whether it be myself or my administrative team, we have to investigate it. We have to make sure that everything, that both sides get their equal chance of saying what happened, and then we work it up together, because if we don't address it, it's not going to go away. And then it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger in the community. Then we start getting a bad name for ourselves, and we don't want that. When it comes to safe and inclusive school environment, we have to build it on, when I think of safe and inclusive, I think of everybody being a part of everybody. You're not really looking for the safety piece. I mean, that pretty much
Takes care of itself. Yeah.
Right. So when I'm thinking internal, building that trust, and the kids need to be able to rely on myself as well as our team, our teachers. They need to be able to rely on each other. For me, I'm a very hands-on superintendent. I'm in classrooms, I'm in the gyms, I'm in the hallways, I'm known to scrub a toilet or two. I'm in the lunchrooms. I'm wherever they need to be. They need to know that I'm a safe person to be with. And if you were to do a survey of the kids, you need to be able to see that they trust the staff as well. So we just talk about that. We work together. We make it a happy place to be. We give them anything that they need in order to be successful and make sure that they know that when they're here, they're safe.
With the knowledge of budget concerns that our district is facing, tell me your experience in dealing with similar situations and how you would handle these upcoming challenges.
I would say fiscal management is probably one of my strongest things next to student success and improvement. When I was at RCW, we went from a 37 to 43% fund balance. When I was at GLHS, we went from 19 to 27%. So I believe in building the budgets, and I'm kind of frugal. And it's kind of weird. I'm kind of frugal, but I've never said no to my staff. If they ask me for something, I always ask, is this a want or a need? And so I start looking at our budget based on needs and not necessarily wants. And if we can do it the wants, we will, but the needs always come first. I can give you some more examples of some fiscal management pieces. When I did a project, we did about a $5.36 million project, and I gave it back about $400,000 to taxpayers at the end of the project because we were able to work together with my school board and the project management team and everybody else involved. We were able to very strong when it comes to fiscal management. The biggest thing I look at when it comes to that is I sit down with the business manager and we just start going over line by line. And what does it look like? What does the budget look like? What does the last 5 years look like? You know, especially being new, I'm gonna want a little bit of history, as I start moving forward. What's the last 5 years look like? I try to do that in all my districts, and the district I'm currently in, when I got there, they were about $300,000 in the hole. And this year, we're about 200 and some thousand to the plus. And a lot of that was just because we went through line by line and we found subscriptions that we've had that we haven't used in 5, 6 years. Why are we paying for these kind of things? Took out those kind of items. Just work to say, what do we need? What do the kids need? Is this about the kids or about decorating the walls? Is this about needs of the building, or is this, we just try to add, why are we doing what we're doing? What is the purpose? And, my history in financial management has been successful because I've done a little on the side.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a long answer to a short question.
Question number 4. What are some ways you plan to build trust and engagement between community members in the school that allows for continued growth of the school, respect for and of teachers and staff, and continued support for public education?
Okay, when it talks about, can I break it apart?
Of
Absolutely.
course you
Okay,
can.
good.
Take your time.
When we're talking about the community members, I am very good about getting out and about. I hit the pavement. I call it hitting the pavement. I like to be. I shop locally to the best that I can. I started a group called Revitalizing Renville when I was in Renville, and that is was helping to beautify the city a little bit more, trying to draw people into the community. Between the Lions Club, the city, and the school, we formed something called the CIA group, which is the Community Alliance Group. And basically, how can we work together with the city and, a formative group like the Lions Club and the school, and how can we keep the school at the heart of the town? And what can we do to work together to make sure that our needs are being met? I currently am part of the Lions group. I'm an EMT, so I'm on the ambulance squad. I'm old. I'm a lead. I immerse myself. We go to church here. We'll work here. My youngest son will be here. So I'm all about getting out there and meeting with the community members and doing anything I can in the community to show that I'm a trustworthy individual. As far as the growth of the school, I think, when you look at the report card, you're already growing. When you look at those test scores, they're growing. And so we need to make sure that we are getting that in the paper. We need to make sure that we're putting pictures in the paper. We need to make sure we are celebrating our successes of what's happening within the building out to that community. That's going to show, our continued successes, because if we don't tell our story, somebody else will. Respect for and of teachers and staff. I do every day. I do a superintendent announcement, and it's just a little time for us to laugh and joke and have a good time. And yet it tells everybody the same information. It's not just for teachers, it's for all staff. It doesn't matter what rank it is, everybody's important and everybody gets the same information. And so I try to build trust with the teachers and the staff by allowing them to see what's happening. They get my daily schedule, they know where I'm at on a weekly basis, they know what I'm doing. I let them know everything. I'm very transparent. And then obviously the continued support for education. I've been to Washington, D.C. to talk with our representatives there about the future. We went with the Minnesota Association school administrators. And, you know, we talked about teacher shortages, we talked about cross subsidies, we talked about, just, you know, mandated things that are coming through that are not funded, you know, these unfunded mandates. And, you know, just trying to really press for more supports given by our legislatures for public education.
Tell us about academic success. How do you define it and how do you achieve it?
How do you define academic success? I think of my son. I have a son who is he has a learning disability, and you know, up until a couple years ago, he's 15 but struggled to read, and just the fact that he could curse up his name was a huge success. We have to take even the smallest successes and we have to make them large. We have to support those. We have to celebrate those. How do I define it even better is whatever those kids need, we have to provide for them. And we have to be able to identify with each student what that need might be. You know, maybe I need 6 months to do something where my brother needs 3 months to do something. We have to be able to identify what those needs are and work with those on an individual basis. And that takes time because we have a lot to do. We have a lot we have to accomplish every day. But we have to get to know our students on that individual basis, and we need to provide for them. I feel the best thing, you know, for me, it's PD for our teachers. It's giving them anything that they need to help make their classroom stronger. If it means that I need to walk into a classroom and teach in a classroom for an hour so that my teacher can go out and observe a different teacher, so be it. You know, if it means that I need to send them to a different organization to get what they need, okay, let's do it. You know, it's all about whatever we work together as to make it a success. Already talked about using the professional learning communities. That has been a big one. When I was also at Renville County West, we did started space for reading. That took years to get us to that aspect, but we did it because it was successful for our kids. So as a group, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about what do we need, where do we see the challenges, where do we see the future, and what do we want, and then we're going to break it apart by there. I can't make that. I just don't feel like I can make the sole decision on that because they're the ones in the trenches and they're the ones who know what everybody needs.
Describe a time you had to make a difficult decision that impacted the entire school district. What factors did you consider, and how did you communicate the decision?
I would say the biggest, most difficult decision that I had to make was closing school building. It really it impacted the entire school district, taking us from a two-center institution building down to a one. It impacted the smaller communities where the school was closed. Obviously, because you never want to lose your school building, and that's given. It also impacted the school that we moved into because we had to do a little bit of remodeling, and we had to reconfigure things that have been happening for 20 plus years, and people had to give up the spaces that they were accustomed to. So it impacted a lot. What factors did I consider? We had to look at financial. That was the biggest one. We also had to look at, was there adequate space so that nobody would be negatively impacted on this. So that was a big one. One of the things that we did when we talked about how did we communicate the decision, it took us months and months to make the decision. The decision was made many, many years prior to my getting there that they said they hit a certain threshold, they were going to close the building, but nobody would do it. Nobody would have that fear because it was such a difficult decision. And because of that, I had numerous open board meetings in my gymnasium and made it public. So people could come in, give their concerns, what you see as a problem, what are we not seeing that we should be looking at? How does the decision impact the district? How does the school board feel about it? We had a different committee that was also part of it. We just had numerous opportunities for people to come in and talk about it. The final decision was to close it, but we did give it a year. We allowed that year to do a formal final design to the building. And that year we really concentrated on celebrating the school as it was. And so our spring play and our spring songs all had to do with the building, we also gave it a year for the community to, in a lack of a better term, simmer and understand maybe a little bit more about why we did what we were doing. That also gave us that 1 year to get the other building up to the specs and the regulations that it needed to be at in order to bring more people into that building. We had to add a wing to the kitchen so that we could feed double the people. They got us in the gym. We did the concession stand and counted that as the new kitchen. So there was just things in that year we had to get done before we could make the move. And then what were the outcomes? Again, we did close it. We did have we went through the growing pains. Unfortunately for us, we did lose an operating referendum that year, the following year, because people were still thinking about that closure, and it did affect us. But now I went back there probably 6 months ago, and everybody's where they should be, and everything is doing well. They've had to expand even more their playground areas, and it was just kind of fun to walk through and say, I got to be part of that. So I think that was probably the most difficult. It had good ramifications. It did also have bad ramifications, and that was for me to learn from. So I did have.
Thank you.
Suppose test scores are flat, the budget's tight, and staff energy is low. It's your job to set a vision that inspires action and hope. How do you lead through that moment, and what kind of story do you tell to move the district forward?
I think the very first thing we have to do is we have to figure out why our test score is flat. Throughout this whole thing, we have to keep asking why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Our test score is flat because we're not teaching it the way we need to be. Our test score is flat because our curriculum isn't where it needs to be. Is there something that our kids are not understanding? That is one reason I do like the professional learning communities. And to talk about that because they ask that question, they ask the why. And they also want to know, what happens if they do and what happens if they don't. What do you do for interventions? What do you do for this? Are we not using the standards the way that we should be using those standards? Is there something we're missing? When we're making our decisions about our curriculum in our classrooms, are we using the data within our classrooms to make those decisions? Are we doing formative assessments? Formative assessments can be done daily to understand where are our kids and are they getting what we're teaching them? are we aligning those state standards, and what is the cause? I mean, there's a way to take a look at it. Are we aligning it to what it needs to be? Where are we missing? It might just be something as simple as we've identified what we think is an essential outcome for our people, but it really isn't. Our kids, they either have it or they don't in this case, and we need to find something different. So we just keep working through it until we can start answering some of those why questions. The budget is tight. Again, we're gonna go back to asking what is needed. Budgets are gonna be tight, and so what do we need and why? Again, asking that why question. Why do we need it? Who's it gonna affect? Staff energy is low. We're gonna have some staff activities to try to celebrate the successes of what we are doing in the classrooms, what we're doing in the lunchrooms, what we're doing in the hallways, what we're doing within our district. I like having activities with my staff outside of the school day, as a way to, show appreciation for who they are, what they do. I do something I call soup with the soup, and we have a supper opportunity at night that we bring, everybody can come in and just kind of veg and talk with each other and kind of build each other up. This year, I did a semi-formal for my staff, and we brought in a catered meal, and they got to, they dressed up, that we danced, we had some adult beverages, and just found time for us, and found some peace in who we were and what we did, and just to try to find activities that regenerate and re-energize people. And so that's a hard one. We work on that throughout the year because school is hard, teaching is hard, and so we try to work on that a little bit more. It's my job. Okay. How do we do that a little bit? Again, how I would lead through that, being very hands-on, a very hands-on superintendent. I'm in those classrooms. I'm encouraging. Sometimes it's the admin team that struggles. Maybe they have an issue. I'm with them. We meet, we discuss things. Here's the issue that we're working through. Let's work through it. How are we gonna do it? Let's set our deadlines. Who's gonna do this? What needs to be done? Who do we need to talk to? How are we gonna do it? And that's gonna depend on every single issue that we deal with. So I don't know that I could get too specific on that, but it's my job to lead us through it by gentle pressure relentlessly applied, I guess.
All right. You discovered a long-time, well-liked staff member has been underperforming in ways that impact students. How do you handle the situation? What's your process for addressing the issue while respecting their legacy and maintaining staff morale?
The first thing I'm gonna do about handling the situation is I'm gonna work with my admin team, or person, depending on who it is, and figure out why they're saying that they're underperforming. What's the proof in this? Where are they getting the information from? Then we're gonna take a look at that, and basically facts don't lie. And it's at that point that we're gonna work with that one teacher. We're not gonna make a big issue to the rest of the staff, but we're gonna bring that person in, and we're gonna show them the facts and say, what can we do to help? What is happening within your classroom? Okay, we're gonna work quietly, we're gonna work quickly, we're gonna try to identify exactly why the kids are being impacted. And it depends on what the impact is as well. Is it a screaming situation? Is it a work situation? We're gonna address it. My process for addressing the issue is just keeping it as low key as possible, as to not embarrass that person. Yet provide them with the additional supports And there might be a moment that, as well respected as they might be, this might not be the place for them. And we have to be okay with that. We have to hold that person just as accountable as we would anybody else. And so that would be something that I would refer, of course, with my admin team on.
Thank you.
Tell us about a time you improved the special education services and programming, and how did you do that?
I don't honestly know that I can tell you that I've improved special education services. I've always been very fortunate to work with some wonderful special ed teachers and directors. I do sit in on quite a few IEPs, and I think it's important that I also know. I do work with them. I make sure, it's my job to make sure that there's the resources that they're given are provided to them so that they can continue to offer good things for our kids. I don't know that I could break it down to just, honestly, just the special education. I just think I'm gonna provide them everything they can. I can to those teachers so that they can provide for their students. I've been very fortunate. I can honestly tell you that I've been very fortunate, and special ed budgets seem to go a lot further as well than education budgets. So sometimes we get more than. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. But there are things I can purchase through special ed service money or funding that I can. I don't know that I have a real good answer for you now. I really don't. I just say providing as much resources can identify a certain something like
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Question number 10. La Crescent Hope has made significant investments in its facilities in recent years. Resources are always limited. How do you evaluate facility needs, both urgent and long-term, while balancing a restricted budget? Can you walk us through a decision-making process and how you prioritize those projects?
Absolutely. The first thing we're going to look at is our strategic plan. And the second thing we're going to look at is our long-term facility maintenance. And we're going to use those things and walk us hand in hand to look for the future of what we need to do. Then we're also going to walk through, I'm going to use my directors, my custodial, my facilities, whatever it might be. We're going to walk through and we're going to see what needs have been identified throughout our building. And we're going to break them into two categories. Are they needs for students, and is it going to impact them, or is it just your daily, yearly, bi-yearly, whatever it is, maintenance, and how we can look at that. For instance, it might be the roof. Roofs are impactful. It might be something in the hallway. Something on the floor might need to be fixed. We're going to look at those things item by item, and we're going to walk through them and how do they fit in our strategic plan, and how do they fit in our long-term facilities maintenance. And we're gonna do it that way. Urgent. One thing I always usually put in my budget is I put up like a contingency amount in our budget for those urgent things where I cannot get the school board together at one time to say we have to do this and I have to make the emergency call. I will take care of it right away, especially if there's a safety issue. And when we're talking about the restricted budget, it's already part of the budget. It's something that I always put in. And what I can offer to the school board so that in those situations we can have, otherwise the long term is going to go through.
Thank you. Please share your thoughts on how districts
About academic progress and improvement, I think I've kind of touched on that with, if benchmarks are not being met, we need to figure out what is keeping us from making those benchmarks. Are we, again, we're gonna go back to those state standards. Have we identified the wrong standards? What is maybe there's a little resistance. What's causing the resistance? We have to identify the root cause of why, why is something not working. For me, because I do feel that academic progress and improvement, it might mean a few more later evenings for me to be able to take and maybe do some additional comparisons to our state testing versus our report cards, or our state testing and our curriculum. It's going to be me working with the admin team to identify, are we using the correct curriculum for what we need this to be? Is it strong here? If not, where do we have to pull additional resources from? Where do we have to pull additional budgets for? Because we're not going to go backwards. We can't go backwards. That's providing educational malpractice, and it's not going to suit our kids very well. We have to keep moving it forward. We have to be okay with making our decisions in our classrooms based on our data. If a teacher struggles in any way to figure out what that data looks like, it's my job to go in and help them. It's my job to guide my admin team to go in and help them. We need to identify the root cause of what's going on and why. Staying status quo is not an option. Going backwards is not an option. We have the resources, or we can find the resources. We have to be creative, and we have to know what we're looking for. And we can't be afraid to admit it either. That's sometimes difficult.
Excellent, thank you.
Last question. What is the superintendent's role in the broader community?
My job is to release to the community the information that's going on in this building. That might mean nothing more than being seen in the public and talking informally with community people at a game. It might mean, I'll give you an example. Being on a bowling league right now, these are people who don't have kids in the school district. My job while I'm bowling is to have conversations about the great things that are going on. And, we do that all the time. Hey, did you hear about that? This is going on. It's my job to get out there and tell the people the wonderful things that we're doing here. Not alone, but I have to lead that charge because I expect them to do it as well. I need to live here. I need to be part of it. I need to be able to talk about it at church. Sometimes it really actually bothers my husband a little bit because we don't go to the store without, hey, Dr. Mortenson, and it's a 3-hour visit to someplace, wherever it might be. And so, he's all about, is there any place you can go that people don't know you? Probably not. Because I do like to be out in the community, and I talk a lot. And I'm not afraid of being proud of who we are and what we do. And again, if we don't tell the story, somebody else will.
Thank you. That was our last question. Do you have questions for us?
I do.
Oh, you're good for time. Don't
I
worry.
have time?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I do have a couple. What would be the first thing you would want me to look at or do upon hiring me?
From what would we expect you to do?
Is there something coming up that you would want me to really jump in and start looking at? Or is there a need?
I would like you to ask a lot of questions of a lot of people and hear what they have to say. I would really like you to be a very active listener when somebody starting here to hear from what everyone here has to say.
The state has a huge budget deficit or removal of funds, I guess, that we've had, so finding ways to overcome that, I guess, in our district will probably be something that's front and center.
I want you to make sure we're following our strategic plan.
Why write them for like a poem, right? I agree. Okay, good. If you could make one major change, let's say we have the money. If you could make one major change, what would that be?
Well, mine would be our nutrition program.
Making it stronger?
And healthier.
I would make it so that our middle schoolers don't have to choose between art and music, band and choir. That's always been a pain point, and it just feels like we're setting up teachers to fail by throwing kids into a choir class if they don't want to be in there. And, you know, art is something that will be there until the day you die. And it's just too bad. I mean, everybody should get an appreciation for art. That's a really narrow. So I don't expect you to change that, but
And to kind of piggyback off of what Eric's saying, I think we need, hire more teachers. Class sizes are large, and I'm a teacher myself. So I think that's the most important.
What did I want to say? Outside of maybe getting a budget out, do you see any other major challenges that we have coming our way? I can give you an example of what I mean by that. When I was hired at 2 districts ago, I did 3 referendums in 4 years. And I was not aware of that before. Not that I would have done anything different, and I was successful in 2 out of the 3 of them, but, do you see anything like that coming forward in the next?
well, we've got an operating levy. It's gonna be, what is that, when is that up in 27, 28?
And with the cuts that are coming top down with our state, we might not have a choice but to lean on that type of funding. So I think it's always on the table, just because we have amazing staff. And if I could give them all $1 million, I would, just as probably most of the people at this table probably would. But we're stuck, we're only able to take out so much money out of that bucket, and it is what it is. And sometimes that's difficult in negotiations. So,
Sometimes in negotiations, we can find other ways of
right,
compensating that might not.
some
Unfortunately,
creativity would be great with that.
Absolutely. I think really that's all I have.
Mhm.
Where are you? You talk about your strategic plan. Where are you? What year are you in the strategic plan? They usually write them for, there's supposed to be an ongoing process, but you usually write them for at least 3 years. And then, you're supposed to look at them, but, where are you in that process?
Year 2 or 3.
2 to 3.
We're on the 3rd. This is
Yeah.
third.
Now, when I look at a strategic plan, at what I call action cards, and then that's something I share with you every 4 times a year. So you know where we're at in that. It is the plan to bring somebody else in to redo that, or is that something that the expectation is the ongoing part of it?
We also took Teamworks a couple years ago to create it.
Very clear?
I'm not sure who the team was.
exactly.
Teamwork is,
Yeah, but I
It was a
think
woman.
it was,
It was a woman.
okay.
I'm having a bubble.
It's all, yeah, it's the same team. I'm familiar with that group, so.
Yes.
So we have action cards. I just don't believe they've been presented to the board. The
Okay.
outcomes. We just gotta keep it rolling.
I think it's important that you guys know where we're at and what we're doing. So, that's just one of those things I had, once a quarter. you
I don't know
get
how
to see
often
where we're
they're
at, so.
updated. I don't know.
Okay, so what, you're three, you're two. Okay. Actually, I think that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you so
so much
much.
for
It was
your
nice to meet you.
I appreciate your time and.
Safe travels back.
It was great
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Travel safe. Did you fly or drive?
I drove.
Oh, that's right.
I drove yesterday. My folks live in Alberta, so I stayed there. So-
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Oh, really? That's just on the road for me.
Gonna move for a 10-minute recess?
Moved and seconded for 10 minutes.
Okay, I can take all the time you want. Actual heads number. It doesn't exist.